So Chairman Powell, I thought it was wonderful that Taylor Swift was Times Person of the Year. I cannot stand her music, but I'm a total Swiftie. I think she's an inspiration. I can't imagine a better role model for a young woman than Taylor Swift. You know, she's nice, pays her people well, doesn't have profanity in her songs, doesn't appear to have had a shit ton of surgery, seems to be in a healthy romantic relationship, is a baller billionaire. In terms of who's had the most impact, I would argue it was actually Chairman Powell. Because inflation is how revolutions start. They don't start because of an invading army or people are upset about laws being passed. They start because every day someone shows up and they say, I can no longer afford beef, I need chicken. I can no longer afford chicken, I need rice. Their purchasing power goes down. That's literally how societies digress into chaos. And Chairman Powell raised interest rates 500 basis points in 15 months. That is historic. No one's ever done that before in a Western economy.
Our focus is on maximum employment and price stability, and the incoming data as they affect the outlook, and those are the things we'll be looking at. The committee would like to see more data that confirm and make us more confident that inflation is moving sustainably down to 2%.
And you got all sorts of shit posting from senators on the left saying that, well, people can't afford their mortgages and their credit card payments, and inflation has dropped down below 3%. And here's where we are with our economy right now. We have the highest GDP growth of any large economy in the world, with the exception of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, while having the lowest inflation. That's almost impossible to pull off. We have the most dramatic job growth in history in the last year. I mean, it's literally, if you showed these numbers to an economist, they would say, that's impossible. You can't do it. The market's touching new highs. Now, the problem is similar to technology, or what William Gibson said about technology, is prosperity is here, it's just not evenly distributed. And so a lot of people are upset, and they have every right to be upset, but that's a function of policy choices. That's a function of income inequality because of tax structure that transfers money from lower middle income households to rich households. But if you were to try and architect an economy, I mean, literally, this is it. And just speaking in terms of America right now, we're food independent. We're energy independent. Harmless, friendly Canada to the north, harmless Mexico to the south, oceans protecting us. No one is lining up for Chinese or Russian vaccines. The greatest technological innovation of the last 20 years is within a 7-mile radius of San Francisco International Airport. So for all the shitposting in California, they basically recreated the entire global auto industry in terms of market capitalization in the last 6 weeks. So something is working here. And we're also in striking distance, as much controversy as there is around some of the things going on campuses. We're in striking distance of becoming the first multicultural democracy in the history of the world. 51% of Harvard's incoming freshman class is non-white. Every nation in the world would kill for our problems. Remember how China was supposedly going to kick our ass and was going to surpass our economy? In the last 3 years, the Chinese stock market has shed $6 trillion in value. There are 7 companies in America that have added $3 trillion in the last 12 weeks. So you may not like America, and I worry that we're raising a generation of people, because media likes to catastrophize. We're raising a generation of people that don't like America, and that's fine. But we're least bad than anywhere in the world right now. And I think a lot of that reverse engineers to very bold actions taken by the Fed chair. So as much as we were hoping the kind of the punch bowl was going to be put back in front of us such that we could have really low interest rates to drive growth, which is great, which is fun, especially for wealthy people who can borrow against their stocks and make more investments. This guy, I defer to him. He has pulled off a master class in how to essentially create a Goldilocks economy. Under the auspices, I mean, you got to give the president some credit here, but the economy here and the level of prosperity is staggering. Unfortunately, because of tax policy or idolatry of innovators and sort of a lottery optimistic economy where we all believe we're going to be in that 1%, and I can prove to all of us mathematically that 99% of our children will not be in the top 1%. We have a massive amount of prosperity, but it hasn't translated to progress, right? And that is lower and middle income households are actually doing better, but not nearly as better as the amount of prosperity recognized by other people. And we're reminded of that benchmark and that we're not doing well every day by algorithms. Long-winded answer. I think he's doing a great job. One of my heroes is EU competitive Commissioner Margaret Vestager. She's just not impressed or scared of these guys. And if you think about the US, you would not want to give up big tech for all of their downsides, weaponization of our elections, right? Income inequality, teen depression. I mean, there's a lot, making our discourse more coarse. There's a lot of negatives. On a net level, they're positives. They add tremendous prosperity, create a ton of good jobs, a lot of utility, right? The problem is with the word net. And that is we tend to make binary decisions because that's the easiest way to process information when we say, well, if they're a net good, then leave them alone. Well, pesticides are a net good. Fossil fuels are a net good, but we still have an EPA and an FDA. So we should absolutely hold them accountable. Go to Europe, they don't have nearly the upside. They get all of the downside. They get all of the teen depression and weaponization of their elections in the coarse discourse. They get a fraction of the upside. There are very few hospitals or universities with names on the sides from Facebook or Google billionaires in Cologne or Glasgow. So like, we get all the shit. We're the sewer system, but we're not getting clean water. And so that has stiffened the backbone of EU regulators. And their innovation, quite frankly, is regulation. What was interesting about this fine is that estimates were going to be that it was 500 million, it was 2 billion. Now let's talk about why they were fined. They were fined because Spotify has said, we can't compete. This is anti-competitive behavior. And it goes something like this. If Visa, think about the App Store at Apple. I think of the best analogy as a credit card company that provides security, easy transfer of information, right? The user or the merchant gets paid, the consumer knows or has incredible utility, I give a credit card. So there's a lot of technology, trust, safety, security, right? In exchange, Visa or Amex gets somewhere between 1.5% and 3% of the transaction. That is effectively the role the App Store plays. Surety of the transaction, security, certain safety checks, quality control, and they take between 15 and 30%. Now, what if Visa charged 30% credit card fees, 30% to every retailer? And then they decided, you know what? We see opportunity. We're going to go vertical into retail, and we're going to buy Lululemon. And if you shop at Lululemon, we Visa/Lululemon don't have to pay the 30%. So Lululemon can price their products 30% below Alo or Nike. No retailer could compete with Visa/Lululemon. That is exactly what happens when Apple goes into the music business. And Spotify has to pay that 15 or 30% tax, but Apple Music doesn't. So when a company that owns the rails starts competing directly and going vertical, that is the definition of anti-competitive behavior. And Margaret Vestager saw this and has fined them $2 billion. And these fines are perfect, except they have one flaw. They need another zero. And that is $2 billion sounds like a lot of money. It's not. It's basically their free cash flow for, I think, about 9 days. If you had, that's not an exaggeration at Apple. If you had a parking meter in front of your house that cost $100 an hour, but the parking ticket was 25 cents, you would break the law. And that's the series of incentives we have in the United States. We spend years going after these companies. We fine them 9 days, 9 weeks of their cash flow. In exchange, they continue to engage in this behavior where they make hundreds of billions of dollars in shareholder value.